Hi, salam. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to introduce ourselves. I'm Usman Sumo from Tambunan. Here with me, my assistant, Dr. Arli, Aditya, Parikesit, and I have also with me my secretary, Miss Nikan. We are all from Bioinformatics Group, Department of Chemistry, Faculty of Mathematics and Science, University Indonesia at Depok campus. We have also another campus at Salemba campus. So both campus will join us this morning. I would like also to thank to the chairman of this center. We call this one as Center of Learning Resource, or in Bahasa PPSPUI, for giving us a chance to deliver our lecture for this morning. Thank you also to all of you, my colleagues from Timor Leste, and my colleagues, probably some of students join us from Salemba campus. The topic that I want to discuss for this morning is bioterrorism. Bioterrorism consists of two distinguished words. Bio from Greek or Latin word bios, it means life, and terror, it means great fear. As you can see, the definition, bioterrorism emphasizes of creating terror on life. More specifically, bioterrorism is a method that utilizes pathogenic microorganisms in order to create terror on population. It is the most dangerous weapon of mass destruction due to its mass casualty and target specificity. Sometimes we can call this one biological weapon. We could call also another weapon related to this one as a chemical weapon. In discussing bioterrorism, we keep in mind that there is perpetrator. This kind of thing can be either a criminal or insurgent. It can be used as a strategy or a tactic, and the target also not only human, but it can be a crop and livestock. But in case of discussing all the things related to this one, the target, or I mean the final target of these all are human, of course. Again, biological mass destruction weapons are most feared because the infection and psychological consequences. Now let us see what happened with this slide. Why do they spread the terror? In this case, it's mentioned that it's not about the money. It's about sending a message. Why should they do this one? Because in case of discussing money, terrorism, the group, they have abundance of money. That's why they can develop biological weapon. Because in case of develop biological weapon, you need money. So again, why do they spread the terror? They spread it because they want to sending a message. Next. As I already mentioned before, bioterrorism could be ideological, strategic, and tactical. Ideological is an eternally withstanding value by particular group. Strategic motivation is long-term objective, while tactical is the short-term one. Let us see with the diagram. From the diagram we can see there are two parts of our discussion. The left side is likelihood of attack, and the other side is consequences of the attack. So, if our asset is vulnerable, so the intention of the attacker could exploit the security branch based upon its capability. One example is the complete lack of biosafety infrastructure in the target area. The threat of bioterrorism have many degrees. Let us see with the other slide. Next. The lowest is the contamination of food and water supply, and the highest is the targeting materials to the specific location in the body, such as targeting specific tissue or the cell. So in case of discussing this one, we should keep in mind that the target of the weapon is not the only, let's say, water, meal, and others, but it can be used for targeting cell or tissue. The requirement for this kind of attack are of course complicated. In the technical point of view, as we can see, any microbiology or molecular bio laboratory could be scaled up to, into a full blown bioterrorism arsenal. However, the most important and the only non-technical or scientific requirement is the issue of state sponsorship. It states that certain state sponsorship should apply, but in discussing this one, it's very difficult because, or due to the intelligence issue. I will not tell this one because it's not it's not my competency. Let us forward to the distinguish of chemical and biological weapon. Till now, as far as I know, as far as I believe, some people still confused about chemical and biological terrorism or biological weapon. In this table, we'll see that both of them are totally different. I will emphasize the most important distinction in this case. As we can see in the first responders part, the bioterrorism requires a much more complicated response from healthcare worker, while in chemoterrorism, that's not the case. So completely different between biological weapon and a chemical weapon, or biological bioterrorism or chemoterrorism. However, the medical intervention of bioterrorism need biological agent, while chemoterrorism need antidotes, of course. Let us move to bioterrorism agent categories. United States bioterrorism agent categories divide these into at least three parts or 3 points. Hence, let us see with category A. This category agent are the most dangerous of all. We can see the notorious sample of anthrax, for example, botulism, Ebola, and others. Only a handful of nations in the world who could inoculate this type of pathogen in their biological safety level for laboratory. I don't believe that in my country, Indonesia, we have BSL-4. As far as I believe and I know, University of Indonesia has BSL-3, situated in Salemba, and also we have it in Ekman and also in Airlangga University Surabaya, but we don't have it in Depok campus. Now let us see with other category. I think my assistant Dr. Arli will try to explain this to you about the category and the utilization of this bioterrorism. Time is your Dr. Arli.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much, Professor Usman. Okay, the others, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so okay, thank you very much, Prof. Usman, for the introduction, and thank you very much also to the Center of Learning Resource of UI for providing us this chance, and hello, this dear colleague. So I will continue with the lecture. So, this is the category B of US bioterrorism agents. So basically this one is easy to disseminate and cause moderate morbidity and so on, but it still needs sophisticated tools of molecular biology in order to detect them. But actually, if you see in the pathogens, they are not really.
I'm sorry, just to interrupt really quickly. I just heard from Timor Leste they had a power outage. They'll be back in 2 minutes. Just
I'm
to let
sorry?
you know that they're disconnected.
A power problem.
Timor-Leste had a
Okay.
power outage, and they'll be back in about 2 minutes. Just to let you know. Sorry to interrupt.
Okay. Iya, hilang ya.
Okay, Timor Leste should be back now.
Okay, Timor Leste, can you hear me? Timor Leste, can you hear me?
Hello, Manado now. Hello? Hello?
Hello? Timor Leste, can you hear me? Timor Leste, can you hear me? It means yes. Okay, so I will continue. So let me proceed to the next category of category B, the second highest priority agents. It is stated that they are easily, moderately to disseminate, cause moderate morbidity and low mortality, but still requires some sort of diagnostic measure by molecular biology lab. But if you see in this pathogen, for instance, they are actually not really that dangerous. It's, for instance, typhus or cholera. I mean, they are in the hospital. It's already they already have the remedies for this kind of cure. But if this kind of pathogen, for instance, cholera or typhus, if the terrorist group weaponize them, it will be another case. Maybe it will possibly create a new strain, so they become a very dangerous pathogens. Okay, so let's see the next one. Okay, the category C, they are dangerous, if you see, but it could be engineered for mass dissemination, but they are actually very rare, very rare. You see, we have two type of virus here, Nipah and hantavirus. I know. As far as I know, one professor in Singapore who's in National University of Singapore who's doing research for Nipah and hantavirus. As far as I know, they don't have the BSL-4 laboratory, and if they want to, they collaborate with the BSL-4 lab in Australia to do this kind of research. So basically, not many nations in Earth who can handle this kind of agents, even not even in Singapore, as far as I know. So I will proceed to the history. So you see that bioterrorism, we can say it has two types of time frame in the history. We can say the classical or old times here, old timers, how they can do things, and the modern times. You see, in the old times, even if you read the history of the Mesopotamia, you see this Assyrian army, they are using this fungus poison in the enemy well. Well, not really nice if you drink the water from it. And then the Tartar army, the Mongols army, it was from Genghis Khan and the others. They are using this Bubonic plague to attack their enemies, so definitely it will cause troubles. And even in this year, the Spanish they are using contaminated wine to attack their French enemy. And even Napoleon Bonaparte, he's using biological weapon to infect his enemy in Mantua. I think it's somewhere in Italy. And it's not only that. Even in North America, I mean, the European settlers, they are using this blanket full with the smallpox to infect the Native American. It's based on the history. And in modern times, it is even much more interesting. So based on the Allied historical book, Allied, if I talk about the Allied force, they are United States, Soviet Union, Korea, and China. The Japan already has this Notorious Unit 731. So literally, it's like a Nazi concentration camp, but based on the history. And the other one is the religious motive of this cult in the United States, the Rajneesh cult. And one is very notorious is the Aum Shinrikyo cult. They are using sarin gas. But they are not only using sarin gas, as we'll see. We will see that the Aum Shinrikyo, they are also using biological weapon. And this is maybe the most recent case in the 2001 is the anthrax in a male that's sent into the U.S. Senate. What about the recent cases of MERS and Ebola virus, for instance, in this part? Well, we cannot say that it's something related with terrorism. Possibly it's not really occurring. We have no evidence as well. But the epidemics of this MERS and Ebola virus, they are causing big trouble in the public health of many nations. So these are some information about the Japan's Unit 731. So what they did is they are using medical experiments to the human being too. They are using the prisoners of wars from United States and from China as their experiment, and that they are basically what they did is they inoculate the biological weapons such as anthrax.
So you mean it's like clinical trial phase 4, right?
Yeah, it's a clinical trial phase 4. That's correct. It's a clinical trial phase 4. So basically they are inoculate the anthrax germs to the prisoners of wars, and it's located somewhere in Pingfang, China. As far as I know, it's in Manchuria, in the north of China. So this is the guy who's the leader of this Unit 731, Lieutenant General EC0. So these are the types of the germs that they use: anthrax, glanders, and bubonic. So basically, this Unit 731, they could based on the Allied record, they could effectively develop a bio bomb. They could develop a bomb that they are going to use in the Pacific Wars. But some months before they use this bomb, the Japan army capitulated to the Allies, so they never do that. Okay, so let's proceed to the next one. The Rajneeshi cult. So, well, you see, it is in the United States in the early 80s. This guy, Mr. Rajneesh, they have this cult in Oregon. Okay, we don't want to discuss in details about the motive or the political issue that they bring, but basically what they did is maybe little bit similar with the clinical phase 4 trial, but this is a little bit different. They are using this Salmonella typhimurium germs and inoculate them in the salad bars of the 10 local restaurants. So basically, you can imagine if you eat this salad bar and it has this typhoid, Salmonella typhimurium germs in it, definitely it will cause a big trouble. And it is. We have almost 800 cases of salmonellosis. It is really bad, definitely. And 45 of them has to be hospitalized. I mean, you can imagine if this occurred in a country that has a bad public health system, maybe almost 800 people will die if they have a bad public health system. But in the United States, of course, they have a good public health system, because so all of them they are at least cured and become healthy again. So it takes a little bit long time with these 45 people. And I think for those of you who observed the events in the 95, especially if you read international newspapers, whether or international magazine like Times or Newsweek or so on, in 95, we have this Circio cult. I mean, they have this much of member and billions of dollars. So basically, Prof. Usman already said that it's not all about money because they are already rich. But they have some message that they are going to spread to the world, this is something about Armageddon, but I'm not going to discuss in details. And of course, what you read in the news that they are using the sarin gas in Tokyo subway, and some people die and crippled and so on, and they are using this chemical weapon of sarin and so on. But what many people don't know is they are using biological weapons as well. So they are not only using chemical weapons. So they have this complete arsenal of biological weapons, anthrax, T. fever, botulinum, and so on. Even they have this sample of Ebola. It's very, very dangerous virus. That they took it in 95, because in 95 there were Ebola outbreak as well, and nobody knows how can this cult obtain this Ebola virus in the black market. Nobody knows how can they do that. And luckily, the weaponization of the biological weapon is fail. I mean, they fail to infect people by this biological agent. In the Circio, I mean, you see, they are using this botulinum toxin on 7 occasions and even anthrax twice. And they are using sprayers. I mean, they try to weaponize this anthrax and botulinum by using sprayers. I mean, just like you see in the perfume or anti-mosquito spray. I mean, it's very effective, just like that. But it won't work. It's not working. So the problem is the problem in how to weaponize biological weapon is how to get their anthrax to form spores. Because if the anthrax germs can form spores, so the germs could withstand in the extreme environmental condition. If the anthrax failed to form spore, they will not survive. But they could not do it. So they try to use anthrax slurry and so on, but it did not aerolize. So I mean, just imagine that they make this spray, but the spray did not come out. So just like not working anti-mosquito spray, but so they failed. This is maybe the most notorious biological weapons utilization. The most notorious Notorious Bioterrorism Act, letter with anthrax. So it's if you remember what happened in the news, it occurred maybe as far as I know, 1 month after the horror of 9/11, which as far as you remember, there were 2 planes that colliding themselves into the building of WTC and one other plane that colliding itself into the building of Pentagon. But the terror did not stop there. So this terrorist organization using these letters laced with anthrax that beginning to appearing in US mail. So what they did is they are using this, actually it's a classical methods in the microbiology, the freeze-dried method by using powder freeze-dry method. So they freeze-dried the anthrax germs into a powder and they put it in the mail and they send it to this American guy, and you can see 5 Americans died and 17 were hospitalized. This is the worst attack in US history. So these are the letters with anthrax. So you can see that this terrorist organization, it make this is the letter. They send it to this senator somewhere in Washington D.C. And of course, Prof. Usman already told you that it's not about money. It's about sending a message. So this terrorist organization, they have a message that full of condemnation to the United States and Israel. Oh, it's not really important what the message are, but basically by using this freeze-dried anthrax, they successfully deliver their message to the world, because everybody in the world knows what their message are. So that's how the bioterrorism works. Okay, so of course we did not say that this MERS Middle East respiratory syndromes they are something to do with any terrorist act. No, because as far as the evidence that we know that they are naturally occurring, but this virus is very dangerous, and we should handle this with care. Okay, it happens in Saudi Arabia, of course.
So you mean probably it can be used as a biological weapon,
It
right?
could be, yes, it could be.
Okay, thank you.
It could be used as a biological weapon, but we still don't have any evidence of whatsoever.
The same thing like Ebola, right?
Ebola, yes. Well, Ebola already used in the Sir
There is
period.
already, okay.
Already, Ebola, yes. Ebola is already.
But probably it's different from the beginning. I mean, both of them already mutated. So today also probably you got Ebola, the new Ebola strain.
Yeah,
probably like
yeah,
that.
possibly it's a new strain because
Okay.
they have trouble. If it's the old strain, I mean they can handle it with easy. Sorry,
Okay, okay.
So this is happening in Saudi Arabia in 2012, which is of course near the Islamic holy shrine of Mecca and Medina. So it caused trouble. So this is the coronavirus. Okay, so I mean the symptoms, they are somehow very similar with SARS that occurred in Hong Kong. They have fever, cough, and shortness of breath, and 30% of the infected people with MERS, they died. And this is, we already discussed this in brief during the Sir lectures about Sirkio. So of course, Ebola virus disease, it is very fatal. If the scientists found this in Africa, it caused this hemorrhagic fever. And the mortality rate is up to 90%. You see, it occurs in Central and West Africa, near the tropical rainforest. I mean, if you read the newspaper recently, there is one guy in Sierra Leone. I mean, he's a doctor. I don't know. I forgot the name. Dr. Shea, somebody. Dr. Shea, I think. And so Dr. Shea, he is the famous Sierra Leone virologist from Sierra Leone. But he died because he's infected with Ebola. I mean, you can imagine that even a very skillful virologist died when handling patient with Ebola. I mean, because many things can happen because Ebola is very dangerous. So it is transmitted from people, from wild animal, and spread in human population. So human to human transmission do occurs. Okay, the first natural host of this Ebola is, of course, they are bats. It's not different with MERS because the first natural host of MERS virus are bats. It's like, I think as far as I know, Nipah virus also the natural host bats as well. So the problem with Ebola is no treatment or vaccine available. So it is really difficult. I mean, how you take care of this kind of virus. Okay, and they are not only infecting humans, they are infecting primates as well, monkey, gorillas, and chimps. Okay, so you can see that it is the Guinea Ministry of Health announced this much, almost 500 cases of confirmed Ebola disease, and almost 400 fatal cases. So you can imagine it's 80 or 90% mortality rate. But it's almost 40 years after we discovered Ebola in 76, but there are currently no cures or effective treatment. So, I mean, what we need to do to think about this. I mean, we don't want that this kind of disease occur again. So at least somebody, at least from pharmaceutical industries, government, or even United States nations should think how to handle this. And we did not say that this is bioterrorism, but at least the extra care should be to be given to this kind of virus, because in the past it is real that the Shirkirio cult used this Ebola virus as a means to attack to terrorize the population in Japan. So what about the biosafety? So I mean, we should increase the awareness of the public, awareness of the people in case discussing about these bioweapons. So in instance, this initiative in the United States is very good because they have this biological integrated detection system, or BITS. It's like a mobile detector, like a gadget. I mean, by using a gadget, you can determine whether it has whether the patient has this anthrax or Ebola, infected with anthrax or Ebola virus. It's very effective. It should be specific preparation and planning should be conducted. And at least it should be in a close cooperation between academics, or close cooperation with academics and with the government and the industry to provide vaccines and drugs for the high priority agents such as Ebola or anthrax and so on. And the good news is, I mean, this is a current trend in the pharmaceutical industry, or even in pharmaceutical research in general. And there's a new kind of science or field of study, bioinformatics and computational vaccine and drug designs, that are taking place because they believe that by utilization of the computational science, it could shorten the path to develop drugs, or making drug development much effective and cheaper. So these are the policy intersection between, as you say, I will not discuss in detail, but between biosecurity, biosafety, counterterrorism, and agricultural biosecurity and biodiversity. And there are many issues that discussed in the policy intersection, and it should be in the governmental issues as far as I know. But I mean, I will emphasize some stuff that deem important here. For instance, import licensing of certain organism. Now, so if you talk about the culture stocks in certain country, I mean, you cannot just take the seed stock out of it and just going to the plane and took it to the other country. I mean, there should be a regulation, or there should be a proper handling of this biological agent. And then, of course, how you protecting the food and water supply from the contamination. I mean, there should be extra care to determine that this food and water supply, our food and water supply, are keep safe from any biohazard or any kind of terrorist hazard, and so on. For instance, how about the transportation of this seed stock? I mean, how to make this handling of this biosafety is good. So I would like to read up or summarize to this lecture of Prof. Usman and me. So Of course.
But let me give such an explanation about this one. Dr. Arli, can you give a brief explanation about bioterrorism and biological weapon? Is it the same?
Bioterrorism and biological, it's not really the same if we
Can you
talk about
explain that one?
semantics. So, uh, biological weapons is the material that you use to deliver terror. But bioterrorism is not only a
Do
material.
we have a regulation of using this biological weapon? I mean, the United Nations probably has regulation of using it. No.
As far as I know, yes,
Okay.
it's strictly forbidden. Okay, so bioterrorism can be used as tools to threaten others, threaten the population. But of course, bioterrorism do need certain skills and expertise. I mean, somebody who's working with in bioterrorism should know molecular biology, biotechnology, and bioindustry, and so on. But in order to prevent this bioterrorism, we should do something. So that's why this kind of lecture, and I will not say this is a lecture, this is a sharing session between us, between collaborators in Timor Leste and in Salemba and in all over the world. They are important, so we can spread the message this to the others, to our governments or to the others. So these are some references that we take. I mean, some of them, some history that they are taking it from the Allied history book and references. And thank you very much for your attention. Arigatou gozaimasu. Obrigado.
Thank you, Dr. Arli.
Prof. Usman, bye-bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, from my colleague from Timor Leste and my colleague from Salemba campus, I think that's all for today, this morning session. Let us continue or proceed to the question and answer term. Thank you so much.
Salemba campus haven't have any question yet.
Yeah, please. Hello, thank you.
Don't have any
My
question
colleague.
right now.
Hello, my colleague from Timor Leste. Do you have a question?
This is Dili. Hello?
Hello.
Can you hear us?
Yeah.
Can you hear us?
Yeah. Clear. Yeah. We can.
We have questions here.
Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you, Professor. Thanks for your presentation. I think for a country like Timor, one of the most important and interesting question when it comes to issues like bioterrorism is the extent of vulnerability. I guess, let me explain my question. How vulnerable do you think, given the nature of attacks or of this nature of terrorism, how vulnerable do you think in a borderless, more and more borderless? How do you think, nevertheless?
Hello, the line is not good. Can you
be,
explain one more? The line is not good. It's
Really
difficult
sorry.
for us to hear that one. Can you explain? Repeat it again. Yeah, in a slow motion. Can you?
Gantian gangguan teknis.
Hello, my colleague from Salemba, probably they have a problem from Timor
The
Leste.
power, I think.
Do you have any question or sharing information about this one? My colleague
We have
from
already connected to Timor Leste.
mhm. Hello, my colleague from Japan. Can you help us because we have something problem from Timor Leste. It's difficult for us to hear that one. Can you help us?
They, they should be back now.
Okay, thank you.
So I think if our colleagues in Timor Leste could wave, I think they're hearing you now.
Yeah, seems to me that something happened with the vibration or the length of this one and the mouth of the person who talk is not too close probably. So you can ask them to make it clear. Okay.
Sorry, you're saying their audio is not clear? Or
Yeah, you it's okay, but my colleague from Timor Leste it's not okay. I could not hear
Okay.
that one.
Okay, they disconnected briefly, so that it might be related. Uh,
Okay.
Timor Leste, can you speak and we can see if your audio is okay? It seems that when Timor Leste comes back from a disconnection, it takes a moment for their mics to come back up. So that's, I don't know if you want to wait the session for that or not, but
It's okay. We can discuss with the colleague from Salemba campus. Hello, my colleague from Salemba campus. Do you have any question about this topic or sharing information?
Right now, we don't have any question.
Have you ever heard about this bioterrorism? My colleague from Salemba campus.
Yes,
Have
we have
you ever
already
heard about
heard
this
about
one?
the bioterrorism can affect a very damage to human being, and in a mental, it will shatter in a long time to recover their psychology.
Do you think that this kind of weapon, I mean the biological weapon, not the bioterrorism itself, can be used by any nation? For
I
example,
don't think so
Indonesia?
that
Huh?
bioterrorism is not
Not
supposed
bioterrorism,
to.
because bioterrorism is completely different. I mean that completely different with biological weapon. How about the biological weapon? We have it already. I mean that this world already have like a chemical weapon. How do you think about that one?
It's about
Halo, mana
about
Ronald?
that. I think that a biochemical is not supposed to use for any weapons, because a human who
Oke,
can
pasti dari
use
mulai.
it. Excuse me, Pak Vicente.
Professor. Yes, this is Timor Leste. Can you hear me?
Yeah, of
Yes,
course.
I can hear you. Can we continue?
Okay.
Yeah,
Back to
yeah.
you.
Go
Yes,
ahead.
sure.
Go ahead.
We
Go
have
ahead.
some questions here, but
Go ahead.
thank you. Let me cut short my question. Professor, how vulnerable do you think the traditional borders, both land borders and sea borders? Because that is
Halo,
important
Vicente,
and
Vicente,
interesting
halo.
question.
Your voice is very noisy.
Is it any better? Can you hear us?
Yes, I can
Okay.
hear you now. It's clearer.
Should be okay. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, Professor, let me repeat my question. how vulnerable do you think the traditional borders, both the land borders and the sea borders, to attacks such as bioterrorism? This is an important and interesting question for a country like Timor, because I think that determines how in a country like Timor can be both a target for the attack, but also a launch pad for the attack as well. Thank you.
Any other questions from Timor? Professor, this is the first question from us. Back to you.
Okay, thank you. Nice question, but it's difficult to answer because this is about your country, right? Every nation, every country, there's probability attacked by terrorism, especially in case of discussing the condition or the situation of us. You do believe, you do understand what happened with your country and with our country. So in case of discussing this one, we should collaborate one each other. Collaborate, it's not from the political point of view, but from the science point of view. So in case of discussing this one, we should cut off this kind of thing in order not happen in the near future. That's all I can give to you to answer your question. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Professor, I have here another question.
Okay, go ahead.
As per your PowerPoint presentation, you mentioned here that we have a lot of type of agents, and we have you have categorized it in many types, A, B, and
Yeah,
C.
3 types.
And
Yeah.
mostly you mentioned that these agents are among us, and most of us, we are not aware of this type of dangerous. By reading this on the bottom of this PowerPoint presentation, I read here a lot of agents here on type A, B, and C.
Yeah.
And also, yes, also on your prevention slide, you mentioned now about enhancing the public awareness of this bioweapons engine.
Yeah.
But as people in the field, I never felt yet that this public awareness has been reached us, and my question is that this presentation prevention you're talking only, is it happening in Indonesia, or you're talking about the worldwide? Back to you.
So, okay.
Hello?
Thank you very much for the question. So, I think what's one of our motivation is what's happened, what's written in the historical records, or what's happened in the past. If you see in the cases of the for instance, what's happened in the with the unit 731, for instance, and what's happened with the Rechnesi cult, and what's happened with Om Shirkio. And not only that, as if you see that the Soviet Union, they develop biological weapons as well. They have this some kind of corporation, let's just say, name is Biopreparat, the Biopreparat, and there is one doctor who was working there. His name is Ken Alibek, Kanajijan Alibek, and he is a doctor, and he was very sad because as a doctor he has to work in a biological weapon installation because he really want to work as a real doctor in Soviet Union, and because he was very sad, he was defected to the United States, become a professor in somewhere in the US. So he told he was written a very good book. The name of the book is Biohazard. I mean, you can read there what's happened when the Soviet Union developed their weapon of mass destruction. I mean, this biological weapon, I mean, in one time in history, I mean, they have trouble with this biological agents installation. I mean, that they have a security breach, internal security breach, and the anthrax germs become sent out to the environment, and many people actually died in the Soviet Union. So I mean, based on what we read in this, and although the Soviet Union is not exist anymore, I mean, there are some people actually speculate. We don't have evidence yet that how can you control this installation again, this weapon installation. Nobody knows. I mean, but there are still speculates about that. But so I mean, we are learning from history of the world. We are learning for the terrible things that happens in the past. So what we see that what we can do is we have to do something in order to prevent it to happen again in the future. We don't want to see something like Unit 731 exist again, or something like biopreparat exist again, or something like the attacks of the Sirkirio exist again. It should never ever happens again. And in my personal opinions, I mean, we should not have any weapons of mass destruction in place in the world. Thank you very much.
My colleague from Timor Leste, can we discuss this one related to our competency, because sometimes it's flipped to the others subject, political subject and other subject. I do hope we could not discuss about the one, because I really confused about that one, because I asked my president of this university also, if you discuss about bioterrorism, you keep in mind, be careful about the political point of view, because it's not my major or my competency to answer such question related to that one. Thank you for your understanding.
No, thank you. Okay, I think there's no more question from us. Oh, sure. I'm sorry. We have another question here.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. My name is Luis. I'm from security unit. Can you hear me?
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. This is a very interesting topic for us related to security issue, especially in Timor Leste. Because this we're talking about live threat. There's live terrorists, there's live threat. And as already mentioned by one of my colleagues, that we have a border problem here, especially between Indonesia and Timor Leste. Does any mitigation or any prevention being taken by Indonesian government or related to one hot issue about the Ebola virus? Because this is, as you said or you mentioned on your presentation, that this is as one of the big issue as ongoing all over the world. And we don't know as when it may affect, especially because we are bordered to Indonesia. So, and we know Indonesia, especially Bali, as a tourist place, we might affect it, and then of course we'll come to East Timor. Does any mitigation been taken by Indonesian government? Thank you.
We still have another question. Can we have another, Professor Usman?
Yeah, yeah.
Can we have another question?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Good. Go ahead.
Professor, thanks for your earlier response to my question. I think I'll just reframe it, but I need to inform that present in the room at the moment are also people who work on the issues of border control from the Ministry of Health, from our National Police Force as well. And so I'm not trying to impose on any political discussion, but I think any response that we could have from this discussion would be very, very helpful for us from our part. So let me just reframe my earlier question. Um, we've been talking about in the presentation, in both your presentation, we've been talking about the trend in history where attacks of bioterrorism is mainly taking place within a border of a country. So you talk about Japan, you talk about the United States, it's all been within the border of that state. I guess my question is, do you see any trend in the progress of say the nature of the attack? Do you think it will be possible, or it might have, that such attacks of bioterrorism can then be launched over borders? So if I can make it clear, I think the question is, can Timor-Leste be used as a base where attack on Indonesia, my colleague mentioned Bali for instance, can a terrorist launch a bioterrorism attack from Timor-Leste to Bali, or can Timor-Leste be a launchpad for bioterrorism attack on Australia, or vice versa? Because that would then be also reiterating the point my colleague made earlier, that if there is an attack, and if that is possible, and if there is that trend towards then, it would be very, very helpful for our, particularly the policy makers in our 2-3 countries in the neighborhood, to prepare for it. Because if there is an attack on Bali, and if it was possible that we cannot, or someone can attack Bali from Timor, it is also possible that an attack on Bali can have an effect on Timor-Leste as well. Thank you.
Thank you, my colleague from Timor-Leste. You should remember the one thing that I mentioned before, the bioterrorism is not the only targeting a big area, but it's also can target only a few people or one person. So in case of discussing this one, we should keep in mind also, or we could share one each other in understanding this one. So in case of discussing, let's say like Indonesia, our regulation of thinking about the effect of this Ebola, in case of discussing tourism, yes, Bali and Timor-Leste, we are in the same area, ASEAN country, and we are used to be, we are one, right? We should remember that one. So in case of discussing, if it's happened in Timor-Leste, let's say the source of bioterrorism should be come from Timor-Leste and flow by any kind of thing to Bali or to Jakarta. It could happen, but if we believe in our program and our nation motivation, I think it's not happen, because our country nowadays try to make tight regulation concerning this Ebola and Mers-Cov also. So I think it's no need to be afraid about this problem so far as I believe. That's the point that I got afraid about discussing this bioterrorism. In case of discussing like say regulation and others, not from the science point of view, especially from the chemistry point of view or biological point of view. I do hope that you can discuss this one. Let's say in developing this bioterrorism, we should understand about this one, not by using it in the near future, but to come back every people that wanna use this one, because you know already about the sign of this bioterrorism. That's the point. Thank you. My colleague from Timor-Leste.
Maybe from Salemba. Ustaz.
Nothing from our end. Back to you.
Okay. My colleague from Salemba,
No, we don't have any question.
do you have any idea of the thing that this biological weapon in the near picture in Salemba campus or in Indonesia? Do you have a dream of having this one in our country? My colleagues or my colleague from Timor Leste, do you have a dream of having this biological weapon or bioterrorism in the next picture? We are not.
Could you, Professor, could you repeat your question?
Do you have a dream of having biological weapon in the picture? I mean the country, your country. Hello?
Professor, you are too close to the microphone and we cannot hear
Okay,
you
okay,
clearly.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Professor, if you could repeat your question and you stay a little not too close to the microphone. Back to you.
Hello? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Do you have a dream of having biological weapon in the picture? I mean, your country?
I I think not. We don't. Yeah, just a moment. Yeah.
Professor, I don't. Indian dream.
Hello?
Yes, Professor.
Can you hear me?
Are you asking? Yes, yes.
I'm asking of having this kind of thing in the picture. Do you agree with me? Let's say like we collaborate of developing this one in the picture between Timor Leste and Indonesia. Do you agree with this one? If I ask you as my colleague, as my...
Professor, I think there is there is interest in Timor, and I think because as you can tell from the 2-3 questions that we've been asking for Timor, it's all about that interest. And so I think there is that interest of having such a cooperation into the future, and thank you for taking this or having this initiative, because obviously, you know, when you have interest and initiative to start such issues as cooperation you are talking about, one thing that would usually trigger or start this would be awareness. Obviously, I would have to say that there still exists very not very high of very good knowledge and understanding about bioterrorism, but I think there is an interest, as I said, and once that understanding and awareness is raised, that there is more and more understanding, given the interest, there should be such a cooperation, I think.
Okay, thank you. I mean that trying to develop this kind of thing, it doesn't mean trying to use it in the picture. So trying to develop, because without trying to develop that one, it's difficult for us to understand the kind of thing. I mean that in this case, bioterrorism. So how do you think about that one? We try to carry out a research related to this one, but not for applying this one in the future to combat something? Do you have any idea about this one?
Exactly, Professor. I think so. Not only because if we are having such a cooperation, having this, not only because we wanted to try to use it, but also you can master the way of how to prevent them being used.
Yeah, I
So
agree with that one. Yeah. Thank you. I agree. Okay. Thank you so much, my colleague from Timor Leste. My colleague from
We
Salemba.
have another question here.
Okay, go ahead.
Professor, just one more question.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Professor, can you hear me? Hello, Professor, can you hear me?
Yeah, clear. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, my name is Lars Seifert from United Nations Security. I have an observation, and I may be wrong, please correct me if I'm wrong, that in terms of using biological weapons, it seems to many security experts that the threat is actually higher in a higher developed society. To give an example on this, in the United States they have spent tremendous resources on securing water reserves, because obviously it's an easy target, well, it could be an easy target, and an obvious way to infect a lot of people with biological warfare. So for that reason they have spent a lot of resources on securing water resources. Whereas in a developing country like Timor Leste, I actually think, and I may be wrong, that it would be harder to make a large-scale biological attack for a number of reasons. One of them, the water. I have no clue where the majority get their water from, but I know, for instance, in the capital, a lot of people are buying bottled water, which obviously makes it harder to conduct an attack against their water resource. And in terms of food, for instance, people often produce their own food, so it would be harder to actually inflict a major attack on food or water resources. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it would be harder to have a large-scale attack in a developing country. Thank you, Professor.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'm very happy that there is somebody from United Nations is joining this discussion. So it is what you said. It's really 100% correct. It's true that we already mentioned in our slides that if you want to conduct bioterrorism, you need a very certain expertise. You need a sophisticated machinery of molecular biology tools. You need a very, and the conditions of the lab should be very, it should be BSL4 minimal. And of course, you can see that Timor Leste. I don't know about Timor Leste, but our country don't have that. Even as far as I know, our neighboring countries, Singapore, we have BSL3. So, and you see that in the what's happened in the past, most of them it occurred. I mean, most of them occurred in the developed countries, you see, United States, Japan, and so on. So, I mean, you need infrastructure to do the attack. You need the special expertise. I don't know, maybe somebody with a PhD in molecular biology, for instance, to do that. So I mean, developing countries don't have that much of chance. I mean, thank you. Maybe Prof. Usman, you want to?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Arli. Any more? My colleague?
No more questions from our end.
Okay, thank you
Back
so
to
much.
you.
Yeah. My colleague from Salemba, do you have any question? Because this is a Friday. I'm so sorry to tell
We
you,
don't have
because
any
in
question right
Indonesia,
now.
we should go to somewhere at 11 to a mosque to join a Salat prayer.
Our participant doesn't have any question right now.
Okay, thank you. Hello, my colleagues from Timor Leste and my colleague from University of Indonesia, Salemba campus. That's all. I think that's all for this morning. Thank you so much for your understanding and collaboration, and see you next time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Obrigado.